In this video, I want to share with you 6 factors to consider when deciding whether you're going to start a daily or a weekly newsletter. We're lucky enough on this channel to have loads of people leaving us comments, asking us questions, and this is one that we really wanted to answer for people. It's a big decision that's going to stop people from getting started, and if you don't get started, you're not going to make any money. So we do want you to get started as soon as possible. Now, we do have some updates, some very exciting stuff going to happen within local newsletters very soon. If you'd like to be one of the first to hear about that, then use the link in the description, pop your email in, join the waitlist, and we'll let you know about that first. But the first thing I would consider when I am starting a newsletter that is a local newsletter is time commitment. And for me, this is the biggest one. This is the thing that stops most people when they're creating any type of newsletter, is they do not give themselves enough time in order to do this. Now, if you're using AI, this doesn't have to be a stressful point, okay? You can get over the time commitment very, very quickly. But what you want to do is you want to pick a cadence and stick to it. You do not want to go for daily and then revert to weekly. You'd be better off starting with a weekly local newsletter and then reduce it down to daily. Now, this is also going to depend on the type of newsletter that you produce. So, for example, if you're doing a newsletter that's about what's happening this weekend, that doesn't have to be done daily. Whereas if you're doing something which is more new style, that does need to be done daily. So the style of content is also going to be important. But time commitment is something you need to consider. And like I said, start with weekly, and then after you've done 4 or 5 editions and you've learned how to use the AI in order to be able to write it, once you know where you're getting all your content from and where it's being curated from, when you know how you're going to write your newsletter, then you will find that things are getting quicker, and then you might want to move from weekly to twice a week and then move on from there. So don't stress about this one too much, but do start with something that you know you could commit to for 3 to 6 months without too much additional stress on your part, because if you're doing this, you're probably doing it as a 5 to 9 outside your 9 to 5, and we don't want it to take you ages. On top of that, we want to spend more time on growth than we do on actually writing the newsletter, and that's where AI comes in. We have our own AI tools that we've created to help us do this. If you want to learn more about those, just put AI tools down in the comments. So once you've decided on your initial time commitment, then you need to think about content availability. You need to consider how many local events and news updates and things like that are going on in your local area. Now, I'm not thinking you sort of do headline news, but it'll be things like city hall updates. Maybe there's a big development going on that's big news in the area. Maybe there's things like restaurant openings, as well as local events such as music, sports, and those kind of things. If you're in a smaller area, an area that's sort of 10, 15, 20,000, there's obviously a lot less for you to pick from than if you're targeting somewhere like 200,000. Now, if you need help picking a location, we do have a video on the channel here that you can go check out. So do make sure you go and watch that one. But look at what content is already out there and think about how often you could produce a newsletter. You do not want a newsletter that is very, very long if you're going to go for something that is weekly or daily. It could be longer if it is going to be monthly. Definitely longer deep dives would be absolutely fine monthly, but not if you're going to go daily or weekly. But you do need to make sure that if you are going to go daily or 3 times a week, there is enough information out there for you to fill your newsletter. The next thing I would do is take a look at competition, and that doesn't mean competition necessarily in your area, but just find someone else who is doing a similar style of newsletter to you and look what they are doing already and get a little bit of an idea. Now, again, time is the biggest factor here. So if you do find somebody who's creating the exact kind of newsletter that you want in a different location and they're doing it daily, but you cannot commit to daily yet, start weekly with the aim of getting daily as quickly as you possibly can, and then use things like AI in order to help you get there. You might even decide you want to hire a member of staff, maybe a VA, quite quickly in order to help you curate the content. And remember, as you get bigger and more people know about you, they will start sending you things as well. You will get emails coming in asking if you can put somebody else's content into your newsletter or somebody else's event. Now, you won't pick everyone because not everything will work for your newsletter. You'll learn that pretty quickly, but that does help you out with the time limit. So do bear that in mind. The next thing for you to think about is monetization. Okay, and this is a big point, because if you are doing a weekly newsletter and you have sponsorships in that, and let's say you have 5 sponsors in your weekly newsletter, then you only have one opportunity a week to make money from those sponsors. Whereas if you have daily, then that is 5 sponsors, 5 times a week, 25 opportunities. If you're doing 7 times a week, obviously it's even more for you to be able to make money. Now, obviously you have to be able to fill all those spots in order to be able to make the money. So don't just go daily because you want to make a ton of money. Okay, you might actually be able to fill all your spots on 3 times a week, all of your ad spots. But that is another thing for you to consider, is that the more frequent you can put out a high value, relevant newsletter to your local audience, the more opportunity you have to earn from your newsletter. The next thing to think about is reader engagement. Okay, so you need to track open rates, you need to think about click-through rates, you need to measure the effectiveness of your newsletter, and think about if going up and increasing the number of editions of your newsletter is going to impact your open rates and click-through rates, because that's the information you're going to have to share with people in order to be able to get them to be a sponsor. Okay, now if you are providing value, as I said, and people are opening your newsletter regularly, then slowly moving from once a week to twice a week, 3 times a week to daily, then you'll be able to see that change. But if you're putting out poor quality newsletters daily, then that is really going to hit your metrics and you're not going to be able to find yourself any sponsors. Okay. The next thing for you to think about is content depth. Okay. Now, if you are doing something which is a curated list, so maybe 5 restaurants to go to this weekend, that might be your newsletter. You share 5 places to eat out every week. Then that's sort of like a deep dive into what's happening this weekend, where daily is more if you're leaning towards news, so relevant things that's happening on a daily basis. Okay, so just think about the way that you want to write your newsletter. Do you want to go really in depth with things? So maybe we talked about previously about having a newsletter that's sort of like in the art scene. Okay, the art scene is not going to have things going on daily necessarily, especially if you exclude music from arts. So you're not going to be able to fill your newsletter with relevant content. But you could maybe fortnightly have enough to have a real deep dive into not only things that are coming up, but reviews on things that have happened in the art world in the past couple of weeks, interviews, those kind of things. Reviews would be really, really beneficial if you live in an area that is big in the art scene. And again, you could do it for music. If it's a particular place which is very, very well known for a particular type of music, then you might have a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly newsletter that goes into something in a lot of detail, which promotes both upcoming events that you can get paid for, but then also reviews past events that have happened. So people who weren't able to go can still find about the information. They can hear everything was going on. They still feel part of the community, even though they weren't able to attend everything. So do think about the kind of depth that you want to go into when it comes to writing your newsletter. So hopefully that was useful. As I said, the biggest one for you when you're starting off with is time commitment. And then because we are doing this in order to make money, then you want to move towards as often a frequency as possible that is sensible for your style of newsletter to maximize that potential for you to be able to make money from any sponsorships or any ads. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. We can make videos about it. Otherwise, check out this video here on the screen now. That's going to help you understand local newsletters in even more detail. We'll see you in the next one.